I was eating lunch in the cafeteria when the fire alarm went off, and I saw my sister running toward the exit covered in someone else's blood. The blood was everywhere, soaked into her white cardigan, splattered across her face in a pattern that looked like she'd been standing too close when something exploded. Dark red. Fresh. Still wet enough to glisten under the fluorescent lights as she ran past me toward the emergency exit. Her eyes met mine for half a second. That's all it took. Half a second to see the terror in her face, the way her hands were shaking, the smear of blood across her cheek that she'd tried to wipe away and only made worse. Then she was gone, disappearing into the crowd of students flooding toward the doors. I dropped my sandwich. Didn't even think about it. Just stood up and followed her, pushing through the chaos of Lincoln High's lunch period evacuation. 300 students all moving in the same direction, all talking and laughing because fire alarms during lunch meant freedom, meant standing outside in the September sun instead of sitting in algebra class. None of them had seen what I'd seen. None of them knew that my 16-year-old sister Claire was running away from something worse than fire. I'd been a senior at Lincoln High for exactly 3 weeks when this happened. Claire was a sophomore. We weren't close, not really. 2 years apart, different friend groups, different interests. I was the responsible one, the honors student with the 4.0 GPA and the college applications already half finished. Claire was the artistic one, the quiet one, the girl who spent lunch in the art room instead of the cafeteria. Except today she'd been in the cafeteria, and now she was covered in blood. I lost her in the crowd outside, scanned the mass of students gathering on the football field, the designated emergency assembly area, but she wasn't there. Faculty were trying to take attendance, make sure everyone had evacuated safely. Principal Haynes was standing near the goalpost with a megaphone, calling for order. I ignored all of it and headed toward the parking lot. If Claire was running, she'd go to her car. Our mother had bought her a beat-up Toyota Camry for her 16th birthday 3 months ago. Silver, dented back bumper, smelled like the vanilla air freshener Claire kept hanging from the rearview mirror. I found it in the junior lot, and Claire was there, standing next to the driver's side door, trying to get her keys out of her pocket with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The blood on her hands made the keys slip. She dropped them, bent down to pick them up. That's when she saw me. "Mara," her voice cracked. "Go back, please, just go back." I walked closer. "Whose blood is that?" "It's nothing, I'm fine, just go." "Claire, you're covered in blood, that's not nothing." She looked down at herself like she'd forgotten, like the blood soaking through her cardigan and the splatter on her jeans was news to her. Then she started crying. Not loud, not hysterical, just quiet tears running down her face, cutting pale tracks through the blood on her cheeks. I reached for her, but she stepped back. Please don't touch me. I'm calling 911. "No!" She grabbed my wrist. Her hand was sticky with blood. "Please, Mara, you can't. If you call them, if anyone finds out, it'll be worse. It'll be so much worse." "Claire, what happened?" She shook her head. Wouldn't look at me. Behind us, sirens started wailing. Not just the school fire alarm anymore. Real sirens. Police, ambulance, fire trucks. Someone had called 911. Someone had found something. Claire heard them too. Her whole body went rigid. "I have to go. I have to leave right now." "You can't run from this. Watch me." She finally got her keys out, got the door open. I grabbed her arm. "Tell me what happened. Right now. Before the cops get here and you can't tell me anything." She looked at me. Really looked at me. And I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not fear, not panic. Something colder. Something that had been there so long it had frozen solid. "David tried to rape me in the chemistry lab storage room," she said. Her voice was flat, matter of fact. "I stabbed him with a box cutter. Then I pulled the fire alarm so people would leave before he could get up and come after me. That's what happened." David. Our stepfather. The man our mother had married 2 years ago after our father died from a heart attack. David Wallace, 43 years old, regional sales manager, nice smile, good salary, seemed like a decent guy. The man who'd moved into our house and called himself our father. I couldn't finish the sentence. "Probably still in the storage room. I don't know if he's dead. I didn't check. I just ran." The sirens were getting closer. Claire pulled her arm free from my grip. "I'm leaving. Don't tell them you saw me. Tell them you don't know where I am." "Claire. Please, Mara, I'm begging you. Give me time to figure this out." She got in the car, started the engine. I stood there watching as she backed out of the parking space and drove away, leaving a trail of blood drops on the asphalt where she'd been standing. I should have stopped her. Should have called 911 right then. Should have done something other than stand there in shock while my sister drove away from what was either self-defense or attempted murder. But I didn't. I just stood there until a police car pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing, and an officer got out. "Miss, you need to return to the assembly area, now." I turned and walked back toward the football field on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. The school was in full crisis mode by the time I got back. Ambulance parked at the main entrance, police everywhere. Students were being herded into groups by grade level, teachers taking attendance, everyone's phones confiscated so we couldn't post on social media before the administration figured out what to tell people. I found my friend Jasmine near the bleachers. "What the hell is happening?" she asked. "I don't know." The lie came easily. Someone said there was an accident in the science wing. It wasn't really a lie. I didn't know what had happened. Not really. I only knew what Claire had told me, and Claire had been covered in blood and panicking, so maybe she'd gotten it wrong. Maybe it wasn't as bad as she thought. 20 minutes later, Principal Haynes got on the megaphone again. Students, I need your attention. There's been a serious incident. Emergency responders are on site. For your safety, classes are canceled for the rest of the day. Parents have been notified. You'll be released by grade level. Seniors first. Please proceed to the main gates in an orderly fashion. The crowd started moving. I stayed where I was, searching for any sign of Claire, even though I knew she was gone. My phone buzzed. Text from my mother. Are you okay? School called. What happened? I stared at the message. 3 sentences. No mention of Claire. No panic. Which meant the school hadn't told her Claire was missing yet. Or maybe they had and she wasn't worried. Maybe she already knew where Claire was. I texted back. I'm fine. Getting picked up soon. Another buzz. Good. Come straight home. We need to talk. That feeling in my stomach, the one that had started when I saw Claire covered in blood, got worse. I didn't go straight home. I drove to the police station instead. Took 20 minutes to work up the courage to actually walk inside. The front desk officer was a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, tired eyes. Her name tag said Officer Diaz. Can I help you? I need to report something about the incident at Lincoln High today. She straightened in her chair. Are you a student there? Yes, I'm Mara Wallace. I'm a senior, and I think I know what happened. Officer Diaz called someone. Within 5 minutes, I was sitting in an interview room with a detective. His name was Detective Raymond Cruz, 48 years old, 23 years with the department according to the commendations on the wall behind him. He had kind eyes but a cop's face, the kind that didn't give anything away. Miss Wallace, you said you have information about the incident at Lincoln High? My sister, Claire Wallace. She's 16. She was covered in blood when the fire alarm went off. She ran, left in her car. I saw her in the parking lot. Detective Cruz made notes. Do you know where she went? No, but I know whose blood it was. I told him what Claire had said. About David, about the storage room, about the box cutter. Detective Cruz's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Your stepfather is David Wallace? Yes. And your sister told you he tried to sexually assault her? She said rape. She said he tried to rape her. Where is your sister now? I don't know. She was scared. She left before the police arrived. He closed his notebook. Mara, I need you to understand something. Your stepfather is in the hospital right now. He has a stab wound to the abdomen. He lost a lot of blood. He's in surgery. My hands were shaking. I put them in my lap so he couldn't see. Is he going to die? We don't know yet, but if he does, your sister could be charged with murder. If he survives, it could still be assault with a deadly weapon, unless we can prove it was self-defense. She said he attacked her. I believe you, but we need evidence. We need her to come in and make a statement. We need to process the scene, and we need to find her before this gets worse. I gave Detective Cruz my phone number, Claire's phone number, a description of her car. He said they'd put out an alert, not an arrest warrant yet, just a request for her to come in for questioning. He said it gently, like that made it better. Then he asked if I needed a ride home. I said no. Drove myself. Pulled into our driveway at 4:15 p.m. and sat in my car for 10 minutes trying to figure out what to say to my mother. The front door opened. My mother, Amanda Wallace, 41 years old, blonde hair always perfect, makeup always flawless, stood on the porch in her real estate agent blazer and heels. Mara, inside, now. I got out of the car and walked past her into the house. She closed the door and turned to face me. Where is Claire? I don't know. Don't lie to me. The school said you left with her. They have you on the parking lot cameras. I saw her in the parking lot. She drove away. I don't know where she went. My mother's face was expressionless. The police called. They said David is in the hospital. They said Claire stabbed him. They said he tried to rape her. He did no such thing. Claire is a liar. She's been lying about David for months, trying to turn me against him, and now she's done this to get attention. I stared at her. Get attention? Mom, she stabbed him in self-defense. She stabbed him because she's jealous of my happiness, because she never accepted him as part of this family, because she's selfish and cruel and I am done making excuses for her. You don't believe her? It wasn't a question. Of course I don't believe her. David would never do what she's claiming. He's a good man. He loves us. And your sister just destroyed his life because she's too immature to handle me being happy with someone who isn't your father. She was defending him. David was in the hospital with a stab wound. Claire was missing, and our mother was defending the man who'd tried to rape her daughter. I felt something break inside me. Something I didn't know could break. I talked to the police, I said quietly. I told them what Claire told me. My mother went pale. You did what? I told them the truth, that David attacked her, that she was defending herself. You just made everything worse. Do you understand that? You just gave them a motive for Claire to fabricate a story. You just helped them build a case against your own sister. I helped them understand what happened. You made things worse. She turned away from me, pulled out her phone. I'm calling our lawyer, and you're not talking to the police again without him present. Neither of you are. I went to my room and locked the door. Tried calling Claire, no answer. Tried texting, nothing. Tried social media. Her accounts were all still active, but she hadn't posted anything. I sat on my bed and tried to think. Claire said David had been doing this for a while. Not the attack in the storage room, but something. Something that had been happening for months. I'd been living in the same house and I hadn't noticed. Or maybe I had noticed and I'd chosen not to see it. I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Sexual assault, self-defense, legal protections for minors. Everything I could find. The law was clear. If Claire was telling the truth, if David had attacked her, she had the right to defend herself. But she'd run. Running made her look guilty. I needed to find her before the police did. Needed to convince her to come back and tell her story. My phone rang at 9:30 p.m. Unknown number. I answered. Mara? Claire's voice, small and scared. Where are you? Somewhere safe. I can't tell you where. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. The police are looking for you. Mom hired a lawyer. You need to come home and tell them what happened. They won't believe me. Mom doesn't believe me. Why would the police? Because it's the truth. Silence. Then, he's been touching me for over a year. Started 6 months after he married Mom. Little things at first. Hugs that lasted too long. Comments about my body. Then it got worse. He'd come into my room at night when Mom was asleep. He'd corner me when she wasn't home. I told her. 3 months ago, I told her everything. She said I was lying. Said I was trying to break up her marriage because I missed Dad. She chose him over me. I felt sick. Claire, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't tell you because I knew you wouldn't believe me either. You're the perfect daughter. Straight A's, college plans never cause problems. I'm the screw-up, the one who gets in trouble. Who would believe me? I believe you. You do? Yes, and I'm going to help you prove it. But you have to come back. You have to talk to the police. If you run, they'll think you're guilty. I am guilty. I stabbed him, Mara. I could have run when he grabbed me. I could have screamed for help, but I wanted to hurt him. I wanted him to feel what he'd been making me feel. So I stabbed him and I didn't stop until he let go of me. Her voice broke. I'm not a victim. I'm someone who tried to kill her stepfather. You're a survivor who defended herself. There's a difference. She was crying now. I'm scared. I know, but you're not alone. Come home. Let me help you. She hung up. I tried calling back, but she didn't answer. I lay awake all night, phone in my hand, waiting for her to call again. She didn't. The next morning, my mother knocked on my door at 6 a.m. Get dressed. We're going to the hospital. David was awake. That's what the doctors had told her. He'd made it through surgery, lost a lot of blood, but he was stable. And he wanted to talk to us. I didn't want to go, didn't want to see him. But my mother wasn't giving me a choice. We drove to Northwestern Memorial in silence. My mother's hands were tight on the steering wheel, her jaw set. She was still defending him, still choosing him over her own daughter. The hospital room was on the 4th floor, private room, flowers already on the bedside table from my mother. David was in the bed, hooked up to monitors, IV in his arm. He looked pale, weak. When he saw us, he smiled. Amanda, Mara, thank God you're here. My mother rushed to his side, took his hand, kissed his forehead. I stayed by the door. How are you feeling? She asked. Like I got stabbed by a teenager with anger issues. He laughed, winced. Sorry, hurts to laugh, but I'm going to be okay. Doctor said I was lucky. Few more inches to the left and she would have hit something vital. I'm so sorry, David. I'm so sorry she did this to you. It's not your fault. Claire's been troubled for a while. We both knew that. I just didn't think she'd actually hurt anyone. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. She said you attacked her. David's eyes shifted to me. I know. The police told me what she's claiming. It's not true, Mara. I would never hurt Claire. Never. Then why did she stab you? Because she's angry. At me, at your mother, at the world. She blames me for not being her father. She resents that I'm here. And she's been acting out for months. Skipping school, failing classes, lying. Your mother and I confronted her about it yesterday morning. Told her she needed to see a therapist. She got angry. Said we couldn't make her do anything. Then at school I went to find her to apologize. To see if we could talk things through. I found her in the storage room. She was upset. I tried to comfort her. And she stabbed me. It was a good story. Consistent. Believable. The kind of story that would hold up in court. My mother was nodding along, tears in her eyes. We should have seen the signs. Should have gotten her help sooner. It's not too late, David said. When the police find her, we can get her into a program. Mental health treatment instead of jail. She needs help, not punishment. He sounded so reasonable, so caring, like a concerned parent trying to help a troubled teenager. And I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that this was all a misunderstanding. That Claire really was just an angry, troubled kid who'd lashed out. But then I saw it. The way his eyes followed me when I moved. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The way his hand tightened on my mother's when I asked questions. He was lying. And he was good at it. I left the hospital and called Detective Cruz from the parking lot. I need to talk to you about David's version of events. We met at a coffee shop an hour later. I told him everything. What David had said, what my mother had said, what Claire had told me on the phone. Detective Cruz listened, made notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. Here's the problem, Mara. It's he said, she said. David Wallace has a stab wound and a consistent story. Your sister is missing and has a history of behavioral issues at school. Without physical evidence or witnesses, it's going to be very hard to prove her version of events. What about the storage room? You processed it, right? There has to be evidence. We did. We found blood, the box cutter, signs of a struggle. What we didn't find was evidence of sexual assault. No torn clothing, no defensive wounds on David beyond the stab wound. Nothing that clearly indicates he attacked her first. So you believe him? I'm saying the evidence is inconclusive, which means this is going to come down to testimony, and your sister isn't here to testify. My hands were shaking again. I put them around my coffee cup to steady them. What happens if she comes in? If she tells her story? She'll be arrested, charged with assault with a deadly weapon at minimum. The DA will decide if they want to pursue attempted murder. Then it goes to trial. If she can convince a jury she was defending herself, she walks. If she can't, she's looking at years in juvenile detention. And if she doesn't come in? We'll find her eventually. And when we do, it'll be worse. Running makes her look guilty, makes the DA less likely to consider a plea deal, makes a jury less sympathetic. What should I do? Detective Cruz looked at me with those kind eyes that had seen too much. Find your sister, convince her to turn herself in, and get her a good lawyer, someone who specializes in sex crimes and self-defense cases. Because if what she told you is true, she's going to need all the help she can get. I thanked him and left. Spent the rest of the day driving around places Claire might be. Her best friend's house, the art supply store where she bought her paints, the library where she used to study. Nothing. She was good at disappearing. At 8:30 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, different from the one Claire had used last night. Mara? Claire, where are you? I saw David on the news. He's calling me unstable, saying I need mental help, making himself look like the victim. I know. I was there, at the hospital. He's lying, Claire. I know he's lying. How do you know? Because I've been watching him lie my whole life. To Mom, to his friends, to everyone. He's really good at it. But I see it now. I see what you've been seeing. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what do? You come home, you tell the truth, you fight. What if no one believes me? Then we make them believe you. She came home at 2 a.m. I was waiting on the front porch when her car pulled into the driveway. She got out slowly, still wearing the blood-stained clothes from yesterday. She looked exhausted, broken. I met her halfway up the walkway and hugged her. She went rigid at first, then collapsed against me, sobbing. I'm so scared, Mara. I know, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. We sat on the porch steps together until the sun came up. Then I called Detective Cruz and told him Claire was ready to talk. He arrived with another detective, a woman named Detective Angela Romero, 36 years old, 12 years with the Sex Crimes Unit. They were gentle with Claire, took her statement at the kitchen table while I sat next to her and held her hand. She told them everything. The year of grooming, the touching, the threats David had made if she told anyone. The morning he'd cornered her in the storage room, locked the door, pushed her against the shelves. How she'd grabbed the box cutter from the supply shelf and stabbed him when he wouldn't let go. How she'd pulled the fire alarm to create chaos so she could escape. Detective Romero took detailed notes, asked careful questions. When Claire finished, Romero looked at Cruz. We need to bring in a forensic interviewer, someone trained in trauma-informed questioning. This needs to be documented properly. Agreed, Cruz said. He turned to Claire. You understand that you're going to be arrested. You'll be charged and processed. But given the circumstances, we're going to recommend you be released to your mother's custody pending trial. My mother doesn't want me, Claire said quietly. She made that clear. We'll figure it out, I said. You're not going through this alone. My mother came home an hour later, found the police in her kitchen, and lost it. Screamed at Claire for lying, at me for enabling her, at the detectives for believing this nonsense. Detective Romero stayed calm. Mrs. Wallace, your daughter is alleging serious sexual abuse. We're required by law to investigate. If you interfere with that investigation, you could be charged with obstruction. This is my house. These are my children, and I want you to leave. We're conducting a criminal investigation. You don't get to decide when we leave. My mother's face went red. I want my lawyer. That's your right, but your daughter is the victim here, not your husband. You might want to think about which side of this you want to be on. My mother looked at Claire. At me. Then she pulled out her phone and called David's lawyer. The arrest happened at 4 p.m. Claire was handcuffed, read her rights, taken to the juvenile detention center for processing. I went with her, followed the police car in my own car. The booking process took 3 hours. Photos, fingerprints, medical exam, psychological evaluation. They put her in an orange jumpsuit and took her to a cell. She looked so small in those clothes. So young. The bail hearing was the next morning. David's lawyer was there, arguing that Claire was dangerous, a flight risk, should be held without bail. Our lawyer, or rather the public defender assigned to Claire since my mother refused to pay for private counsel, argued that Claire was a minor with no criminal record who'd acted in self-defense. The judge, Marianne Kensington, 58 years old, 20 years on the bench, listened to both sides. Then she looked at Claire. Miss Wallace, do you understand the charges against you? Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand that if you're released, you must follow all conditions of release? Yes, Your Honor. I'm setting bail at $50,000. You'll be released to a responsible adult, not your mother given the conflict. Do you have anyone else? Claire looked at me. I stood up. I'm her sister, Your Honor. I'm 18. I can take custody of her. You're 18 years old. You can't be a legal guardian. Then I'll file for emergency guardianship. I have a job, an apartment I can rent. I'll do whatever it takes. Judge Kensington studied me. You understand this is a serious responsibility? Yes, Your Honor. Very well. I'm granting temporary custody pending a guardianship hearing. Bail is set at $50,000. Miss Wallace will be released to her sister with electronic monitoring. She's not to leave the county, not to contact David Wallace or any witnesses in the case, and she must attend all court dates. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, Claire and I said in unison. I paid the bail with money I didn't have. Borrowed $5,000 from my college fund, got the rest from a bail bondsman who looked at me like I was insane. Claire was released at 6 p.m., electronic monitor on her ankle, discharge papers in hand. We walked out of the detention center together. Where are we going to go? She asked. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. We ended up at a motel in Schaumburg. $38 a night, questionable bed sheets, but it was safe. Claire took a shower, washing the last of the blood from her hair. I ordered pizza. We sat on one of the beds and ate in silence. Thank you, Claire said finally. For what? For believing me, for not giving up on me. You're my sister. I should have believed you from the start. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have seen what was happening. She shook her head. He was careful. He only did things when no one else was around. And he made sure I knew that if I told anyone, no one would believe me. Because I was the troubled kid and he was the responsible adult. And he was right. Mom didn't believe me. The school didn't believe me when I tried to tell my counselor. The only person who believed me was you, and that didn't happen until after I stabbed him. The police believe you now. Detective Romero believes you. Do they? Or do they just think I'm a traumatized kid who might be telling the truth? I didn't have an answer for that. The next few weeks were hell. I enrolled Claire in online school since she couldn't go back to Lincoln High. Got a job waiting tables at night to pay for the motel room and groceries. Filed for emergency guardianship and won, partially because my mother didn't contest it. She was too busy standing by David, making public statements about how her troubled daughter needed mental health treatment, not legal defense. The media picked up the story. Lincoln High student stabs stepfather, claims self-defense. The comment section was brutal. Half the people called Claire a liar, an attention seeker, a dangerous delinquent. The other half called her brave, a survivor, a victim of the system. Nobody knew the truth except us. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. Our lawyer, or the new one I'd hired after scraping together every dollar I could, was Jennifer Yang, 39 years old, former prosecutor turned defense attorney, specialized in sex crimes cases. She was expensive, wanted a $20,000 retainer. I gave her $5,000 and promised the rest in payments. She agreed because she believed Claire. I've seen this pattern before, Jennifer said when we met in her office. Predator grooms a child over time, establishes control, threatens them if they tell, then escalates to physical assault. The victim fights back and suddenly they're the criminal. It's textbook. Can we prove it? I asked. We can try, but it's going to be hard. David has no history of sexual misconduct, no complaints, no previous victims that we know of. Claire has a behavioral record at school, skipping class, failing grades. The prosecution is going to paint her as an unstable teenager who lashed out at her stepfather for trying to discipline her. What about the storage room, the scene of the attack? Forensics found evidence of a struggle but nothing definitive. No DNA evidence of sexual assault, no witnesses. It's still going to come down to Claire's testimony versus David's. What are our chances? Jennifer was quiet for a moment. In cases like this, where it's a teenage girl versus an adult man with no history, where she ran instead of calling for help immediately, maybe 30%, maybe less. That's not good enough. I know, which is why we need to find something that backs up Claire's story. Evidence of previous abuse, other victims, anything that shows a pattern of predatory behavior. I spent the next 3 weeks investigating David Wallace's life. Social media, old jobs, previous relationships. He'd been married once before, divorced 8 years ago. I found his ex-wife, Stephanie Garrison, living in Wisconsin. Called her. This is Mara Wallace. I'm married to David Wallace's stepdaughter. I'm calling because... I didn't know how to finish that sentence. Stephanie did it for me. Because he hurt someone and you're trying to prove he has a pattern. My heart stopped. How did you know? Because that's what he does. He finds vulnerable people, grooms them, controls them. Then when they try to leave or fight back, he destroys them. Did he hurt you? He raped me, multiple times, during our marriage. I tried to report it once. He convinced the police I was mentally unstable, making up stories because I was angry about the divorce. They believed him. Everyone always believes him. Would you testify? In court? For my sister? Stephanie was quiet for a long time. I haven't talked about this in 8 years. I moved to Wisconsin to get away from him, from the memories, from the people who thought I was lying. I know what I'm asking, and I know it's not fair, but my sister is 16 years old and she's facing years in jail for defending herself against the same man who hurt you. If you can help her, if you can show the jury that this is a pattern, send me the details. I'll think about it. She called back 2 days later. I'll testify. Jennifer filed a motion to include prior bad acts evidence. The prosecution fought it, argued that Stephanie's allegations were unproven, prejudicial, irrelevant. Judge Kensington heard arguments from both sides, then she made her ruling. I'm allowing limited testimony from the previous spouse regarding pattern of behavior. However, the jury will be instructed that these are allegations only, not proven facts, and they must weigh them accordingly. It wasn't a full victory, but it was something. The trial started in January, 3 months after Claire had stabbed David in that storage room. The courtroom was packed. Media, supporters, protesters. Half the people thought Claire was a victim. The other half thought she was a criminal. The prosecution's case was strong. They had medical evidence of David's injuries, photos of the blood in the storage room, Claire's behavioral record from school, and they had David himself, sitting in the witness stand looking pale and wounded and sympathetic. I only wanted to help her, he testified. She was struggling in school, acting out. I tried to be there for her, to support her, and she responded with violence. Jennifer cross-examined him for 2 hours, went through every detail of his story, looking for cracks. Mr. Wallace, you said you went to the storage room to talk to Claire about her grades. Why that location specifically? It was private. I didn't want to embarrass her in front of her classmates. But the storage room door locks from the inside. You locked it, didn't you? No, it must have locked automatically. Interesting, because the door doesn't have an automatic lock. It requires a key that was found in your pocket when you were taken to the hospital. David hesitated. I must have locked it by accident. By accident? You accidentally locked yourself in a storage room with your 16-year-old stepdaughter who had repeatedly told people you were inappropriate with her. Objection, the prosecutor called. No foundation for that claim. Sustained, Judge Kensington said. Jennifer moved on. Mr. Wallace, you claim Claire attacked you without provocation. Is that correct? Yes. Then why does the forensic report show defensive wounds on Claire's arms, bruises consistent with someone grabbing her forcefully? She struggled when I tried to restrain her after she stabbed me. Before or after she stabbed you? I don't remember exactly. It happened very fast. You don't remember? How convenient. Jennifer showed the jury photos. Claire's bruised arms, the scratches on her neck, the torn hem of her cardigan. These injuries are consistent with someone defending themselves against an attack, not someone who attacked without warning. The prosecution tried to recover on redirect, but the damage was done. Then it was our turn. Claire took the stand. Jennifer walked her through her testimony carefully. The grooming, the threats, the attack in the storage room. Claire's voice shook, but she didn't break down. Stayed calm. Told the truth. He locked the door, Claire said. He told me that if I screamed, no one would believe me anyway. That I was just the troubled stepdaughter and he was the respectable adult. He pushed me against the shelves, started touching me. I grabbed the box cutter from the shelf and I stabbed him. I didn't think about it. I just wanted him to stop. The cross-examination was brutal. The prosecutor tried to paint her as vindictive, attention-seeking, unstable. Pointed to her school record, her behavioral issues, the fact that she'd run instead of calling for help. If you were really defending yourself, Miss Wallace, why did you run? Why not call the police immediately? Because I was terrified. Because I thought he'd find a way to make it my fault. Because my own mother didn't believe me when I told her what he'd been doing. Why would the police? So you decided to flee. To hide. Like a criminal. I decided to survive. Like a victim. The prosecutor tried to break her, but Claire held firm. Then Jennifer called Stephanie Garrison. Stephanie testified about her marriage to David. The control, the manipulation, the sexual violence, the way he'd convinced everyone she was crazy when she tried to report him. He's very good at being believable, Stephanie said. He's charming, successful, the kind of man people want to believe, and he uses that. He weaponizes it against his victims. The prosecution objected repeatedly, argued that Stephanie's testimony was prejudicial. Judge Kensington allowed it with limitations, but the jury heard enough. They saw the pattern. Closing arguments happened on a Friday. The prosecutor argued that Claire was a troubled teenager who'd attacked her stepfather in a fit of rage, that the evidence didn't support her claims of sexual assault, that justice required accountability. Jennifer argued that Claire was a survivor who defended herself against a predator, that the physical evidence supported her version of events, that justice required believing victims even when it was uncomfortable. The defense wants you to believe that David Wallace is a monster, the prosecutor said, but the evidence shows he's a victim, a man who tried to help his stepdaughter and nearly died for it. Jennifer stood up for her rebuttal. The prosecution wants you to believe that Claire Wallace is a liar, but the evidence shows she's a survivor, a child who fought back against her abuser and is now being punished for it. David Wallace has a pattern. He had a pattern with his ex-wife. He had a pattern with Claire. And if you don't hold him accountable today, he'll have a pattern with someone else tomorrow. The question isn't whether Claire stabbed him. She admits that. The question is why. And the answer is clear. She stabbed him because he was attacking her, because she had no other choice, because she was fighting for her life. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. When they came back, the courtroom went silent. The 4 women stood. In the case of the state versus Claire Wallace, on the charge of assault with a deadly weapon, we find the defendant not guilty. Claire collapsed. I caught her before she hit the floor. Jennifer was crying. Even the bailiff looked relieved. The judge thanked the jury and dismissed them. Then she looked at Claire. Miss Wallace, you're free to go. The electronic monitoring will be removed today. You're no longer under the court's supervision. Claire couldn't speak, just nodded. We left the courtroom together. Outside, reporters were waiting, shouting questions. I pushed through them, keeping Claire close, got her to the car and drove away before anyone could follow. We didn't go back to the motel, didn't go home, just drove. Ended up at Lake Michigan, sitting on the beach in the January cold, watching the waves. It's over, Claire said. Is it? The trial's over. You won. I didn't win anything, Mara. I'm never going to be the person I was before this happened. And David's still out there, still free, still telling people I'm lying. But the jury believed you. The evidence proved he was lying. To 12 people. What about everyone else? What about Mom? What about all the people who are going to spend the rest of their lives thinking I'm a liar who got lucky? I didn't have an answer for that. 3 days after the trial ended, David was arrested. Not for what he did to Claire. The statute of limitations and the evidentiary standards made that case too complicated. But for what he did to Stephanie. She'd filed a formal police report after the trial, and with the publicity from Claire's case, the DA had decided to pursue charges. David hired expensive lawyers, fought the charges. But the jury in that trial heard about Claire, heard about the pattern, and they convicted him. He got 12 years. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Claire and I moved to a small apartment in Evanston. I deferred college for a year to work full-time and support us. Claire started therapy, got her GED, applied to art school. Our mother never reached out. Last I heard, she'd moved to Arizona with the insurance money from David's conviction. Started over somewhere where no one knew her story. Sometimes Claire has nightmares, wakes up screaming. I hear her from my room and I go sit with her until she falls back asleep. Sometimes she asks if I think David will get out early, if he'll come looking for her. I tell her no. Tell her we'll be ready if he does. Tell her whatever she needs to hear to feel safe. 2 years after the trial, Claire got accepted to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Full scholarship. She's studying painting. Says she's working on a series about survival, about trauma, about fighting back. I'm finishing my degree at Northwestern, majoring in social work, going to spend my career helping kids like Claire, kids who aren't believed, kids who have to fight systems that should protect them. We still go to the lake sometimes, sit on the beach and watch the waves. Don't talk much, don't need to. She's healing, slowly, in her own way. I am too, because that's what survivors do. They heal, they fight. They refuse to let the people who hurt them win, and they protect each other. Always. If you made it this far, hit like. You've earned it.